Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday, all day. I hope everyone is doing okay today, and life is going smoothly. And for those who have never joined before, welcome to, I guess we're calling it a drink with, because that's what the hashtag was that I started using. And I see Amanda, and hey, Lance, and Connor. Everyone who's joining, thank you so much for joining today. We're talking to Larry Chen, and some of you may not know who he is, but you may have seen his work, or perhaps you know who he is as well. And he actually was one of the first. Let me see if he is joining us yet. I see Amanda wants to go live with us, but he's one of the first people who I asked to join. I don't know that he knows this, in fact. But hello, everyone. Jesse and I don't know who else is. Benny. I'm still seeing if he is, our buddy Larry has joined yet. I have not seen him join. Let's see. How's everyone doing today? Anybody have any cool thoughts? You can type it out. Amanda, how you doing? Hey, Jesse. Coffee and strawberry rhubarb pie. That sounds amazing. I feel like we're just going to have a quick conversation with you guys until Larry is able to join here. Let's see. Now you're facing. It's not wanting to. Bear with me, guys. Thank you so much, everyone. This is live from. You're gonna get a little closer to my house here. Let's. This is what happens. That's my actual house. There's some flowers over there. I'm not certain why it's not letting me join. Doing great. Amanda did a photo shoot with a torn down Cummins motor today. That's sweet. Bike ride. Okay, so Larry's not joined yet. I might shoot him a note. Randy's joined. All you guys, thank you so much for coming on board and joining the fun. Let me make sure that there he is. I spot him. These are always super fun to started. Hey, Chad, Keith. I'm going to continue just to say hey to people before Larry joins on. I know, I'm sorry you got a little dizzy. Sorry about that. Hey. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Long time no see.
Yeah. Sorry I'm a little late.
No, it's all good. I just talked to everybody there for an extended time. I don't usually just talk to myself, so that was kind of cool to say hi to everyone. Dude, your hair is stellar.
Oh yeah, so it's quarantine hair, you know?
Making moves, actually.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people are commenting, like they're like, "Hey, I've never actually seen your hair because you're normally wearing a hat. You're normally wearing all this sun protection, which you actually mentioned in your post."
Mad respect for the sun protection, by the way.
Yeah. So how are you?
I'm good. Wait, is this what your hair then normally looks like, or is this actually quarantine hair?
Pretty much. This is like the normal do, I guess. Just wake up and it just poofs open. Yeah.
Oh, so good. Yeah, because you are usually wearing all the sun gear, which I love and totally respect. My mom's a 3-time melanoma cancer survivor. So for me, whenever I see you out there, I'm like, yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, that's the thing is a lot of people comment and they say like, "Are you on a safari or something?" They don't actually realize how much time we spend outside.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw you a lot in the paddock when we were covering Global Rallycross.
Totally.
You were out there too, you know?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, you don't realize how many hours you actually spend in the sun.
Well, and I think that's another thing, what I find so interesting about our industries altogether. And like, I don't know much about your side of it, but from the angle of just motorsports and racing altogether, people really don't know a lot about what goes into that day to day. And they see the final results. They see, kind of the final shebang that you produce, but then what that all entails is super rad. And more importantly, I love what you're doing about kind of like diving into the equipment that you have and the products that you use. I saw one of those posts recently. Has that been weird or good to expose that?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting in that like recently, since we've been doing the whole YouTube thing. Oh, I have my drink too, by the way.
What you got?
Just espresso.
Oh. I went tea today. This might be my first, but I look at your little cup.
It's a little.
I went with an artsy fartsy one because I felt like that was appropriate for you.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think over the past year, we've been really pushing to do YouTube on our Hoonigan channel, which is Hoonigan Autofocus. You
Yes.
know, it's a focus on autofocus, so it's a focus on cars and cameras. And I found that luckily for us, a lot of people are interested in how we're getting these photos
Yeah.
and how we're getting access to these cars. And then they also like to see like the behind the scenes aspect of it, how we actually shoot. So it's nice because we can tell our story in that way.
Right.
But also, I seem to think that people are more interested in seeing how we make this
The
versus just
process
the
of.
photos. Yeah, yeah. If I just show photos now, a lot of people are kind of curious on how they're actually made. And also, a lot of times it's one of those things where we actually have to show that, hey, we're in the dirt, we're in the
Yeah.
ditches, we're actually essentially running our own race a lot of times to
Totally.
follow these people, especially with off-road racing.
Dude, that's a
So
good way to put it. Like you guys are running your own race. I had never thought of it that way in all of the years of media.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of crazy because when we follow racers, you know, especially in Baja, like even Tanner, for example, if he's racing, uh, we might see him in 1,000 miles. We might see him 2 times, you know, but we're pushing so hard to go as fast as we can on V roads and also on the highway to try to cut them off, you know, and to try to at least get a glimpse of these racers.
What
Yeah.
about like from the angle then, like how do you, what I find wild about it is you don't have a second chance sometimes, right?
Yes.
That
Yes.
to me would drive me bonkers if I was a photographer.
I can't tell you how many times when we're following racing, it could be even a hill climb like Pikes Peak or stage rally, where I'm all set up, ready to go, and my guy comes or my racer comes, and I either get nervous or maybe there's like potentially it could be like a spectator that runs in front or some other racer breaks down and then there's just so many variables and you have to just do everything you can in your power to kind of see what you could do to kind of just limit those variables, including just having extra people uh, downstream from you, you know, down the
Totally.
race
Just
course,
in
and
case.
also, yeah, ahead of you. And that's kind of why we work as a team. It's very hard to cover those big races just as one person.
Right.
Even when we're shooting rallycross,
Totally.
potentially in the first corner, our person, our racer, they could just get taken out in the first corner, you know? And if I'm in the second corner, we won't have any pictures of said person, you know? That happens all the time.
Oh, especially love GRC, love when it was and when it wasn't. But there was such a first turn sport, you know, that there was
Yeah,
probably a lot of times that happened to you. And you
all
guys
the
lost.
time, yeah. And that's kind of why when we do those kind of races, for example, like in years past, we've been covering King of the Hammers.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know about that
Yeah,
race.
yeah, yeah.
It's such a crazy race, and it's like I don't know, 400, 500 mile course, but we always make sure we have someone at mile 2
Yeah.
because who knows, you know, they could break down in the first however many miles. I mean, if they're pushing super hard, plus their heart is pumping, they're super nervous. They want to make sure they kind of get ahead of the pack, out of the
Yeah.
dust. So one year we actually set a guy at mile 2. I think you know him, Lewis, my assistant.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and one of the guys that we're following broke down at mile 1.8. So, so it's like, you know, it's one of those things where, well, what do you want us to do? You want us to just shoot at the start line at that point, you know?
And so that's where you, okay, so someone just said plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Exactly.
So how do you like, how is the mentality of that? That's like the lowest of low expectations that you can possibly have.
And yeah, that's the thing is you just have to kind of do these calculated risks,
Yeah.
right? So
Which
Um,
motorsport, as we all know, is calculated risks.
yeah,
It doesn't
yes.
matter if you're driving, if you're media, if you're whatever. It's calculated
It, it-
risks.
it's super easy nowadays to kind of forget how dangerous motorsport still is
Yeah.
because luckily there just aren't as many serious incidents as there was, in years prior. Of course, yeah, there's still some freak accidents and there's still some
Right.
craziness going on, and especially like with Isle of Man or for
Right.
example, Pikes Peak last year with the motorcycle guys. It's just one of those things, you just can't plan for it, and you
Right.
could just only do your best to make sure they're safe and make sure you get your shots at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about when someone says, like, this Apex portrait says you inspired me to start shooting? Like, did you know that your impact was going to be so great along the way? Like,
Yeah, I have
you
I have
actually,
no idea.
let's take it back. I just remember you from Global Rallycross Day. So, for those who don't know, like, Larry and I met in the paddocks and in at these miscellaneous random places in 2013 that were set up to try and be a rallycross course. And you were running and gunning almost all the time.
Yeah.
And since then, you and I have crossed paths along the way in
Yeah.
different kinds of areas. But before we get to the point about like you being an inspiration for so many, which you absolutely have been, and even cool, just I posted those photos not too long ago. Already the comments of people like just excited to like listen to what you have to say. Taking it back, when did that all begin?
Yeah, it's so crazy to me because one of my good buddies, Chris Forsberg, he's a professional drift driver for Formula Drift. He actually hit me up 2 days ago for photos from 2006. And
No way.
so like he's like, hey, do you have photos from this event? I'm like, of course. I have them and I can access them within 3 seconds. I look through them and I send them to him. Like he was a baby at that point. It was like one of those things where it was like the first event for a lot of those guys in that industry, the action
Was it at
sports.
Drift? Which do you remember what it was? Which course?
It was a drift event. Actually, it was in China of all places. It was in Beijing, and it was like a demonstration event. So all of the big guys were there. You got Von Gittin Jr.,
Yep.
Ryan Turk, Chris Forsberg. Pretty much all of the big
Like
names.
that one, like was that like when Sam and Reese and Tanner and all of them were?
It was a time when all of those guys were pretty much that was the pinnacle. That was the time. Yeah, I think all of those guys were competing at that time because the year prior, Reese won the championship in 2005. I think Tanner won in 2006.
Yeah, so
But anyways, it was crazy because it was like the first event for Ryan Turk. The first event for all of these people. I mean, like Tyler McCory was there,
totally.
Doug Tahara, all the people that we know.
Right.
And I have photos of them from that event, and I sent them to Chris, and I'm like, get ready for a walk down memory lane, because when you post these photos,
It's
they're just
wild.
they seriously all look like babies.
And
It's so
it's
good.
so cool how that community has stuck together in that way. Like all
Yeah.
together, it really was a little. I mean, it's wild.
So with that said, I never intended to be in front of camera ever. I'm kind of an introvert, and that like I don't really care to be in front of the camera. I don't really care to be like, hey, look at me. But naturally,
Thank you for joining me today.
yeah, but naturally, because of the way things are going, doing this and being in front of camera, if that allows me to shoot and if that keeps me out there following these races and seeing these cool cars and people letting me drive their awesome cars, then I'm all for it. I'll keep it going. And on top of that, if it lets me inspire other people to start doing the same, then you can keep car culture alive in that way, because part of it is a lot of people ask me, hey, what are you travel all over the world. I've been to 50 countries with my job. Yeah. And people are like, hey, what do you get? What do you bring home? Like what kind of souvenirs? I just tell them, hey, look, I just bring back the photos. And in a way, I kind of have that for myself, like I have a piece of that legendary car.
It's like your own postcards.
Exactly, for myself.
Yeah.
Instead of having like a physical thing, in a way, it could potentially be a physical thing. I could print it out and I can enjoy it that way. But to me, I see all these cars, for example, like all these legendary race cars. Like if I go to like a Goodwood Festival of Speed,
Totally.
there's thousands of pictures of all of these cars. They're so famous, everyone knows them. But I just want to photograph them personally, yeah, and take away that as like, hey, that's what I created from that car. So if I can inspire other people to do that, I feel like it'll help with keeping this culture alive.
But like, how do you inspire in that way? Because that's where I would get extremely overwhelmed. Even like trying to do my reel, like in the past, right? And I have like, how many video clips? And I'm like overwhelmed, shut the computer, and I'm done, right? Like, how do you sit there and navigate and know what you're looking for?
Yeah, that's really tough. Luckily, so I partnered up with Canon as of this year as actually one of their photographers.
Yeah.
And they've kind of given me this avenue, this voice, I guess, to actually teach, do one-on-one, but also at the same time, what we do is we actually film it and we try to make some content from it, and we post that on our autofocus channel. So it kind of allows me to have that one-on-one time, actually teach these people how to shoot and maybe inspire them to continue to shoot. But also, because we film it, we can kind of repurpose it, and we can maybe not so much teach people how to shoot, but at least inspire them. Because part of it, I just keep telling people, it's just about shooting what you love.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the cars that I shoot, people don't actually like. The cars that I shoot are the ones that I like.
And yeah, but that translates that, and you see that in the photos, right? Just even those 3 photos that you sent me, there's a different story amongst all 3 of them, even if I wasn't related to motorsport in any way, shape, or form.
Right. So it's one of those things where, I just tell people, hey, get off your couch. I mean, not now, unfortunately.
Yeah, stay on your couch, actually.
Stay on your couch. Hey, I mean, if you have a car in your garage, take pictures of it. If you're going for a walk, your daily walk, staying away from people, and then you see cars on the street, hey, just whip out your cell phone and take a couple of pictures of it. I've been seeing that a lot, actually. Yeah, but it's just one of those things where hopefully I can do my part. Everyone is doing their part. You're obviously doing your part. Your colleagues, our friends that are racing drivers, same thing. They've become something greater. Like instead of the traditional racing driver, which is, hey, show up, get your fast laps in, that's it. If you win, you win. If you don't win, you're as best as your last finish, whatever, all of that.
Yep.
It's not like that anymore. They have to be good at social.
Yep.
You have to inspire people.
Exercise. Yeah, it's a plan.
Exactly. They have to do whatever they can to kind of get the next generation of racers, just inspire them, and hopefully they can continue this craziness.
Well, and that's one of the things I think is really difficult for a lot of people. And I would say this mostly in a creative industry, like what you're doing in my line of work as well. And who was I talking? It may have been Jared Deenda about this, about that idea of at what point are you comfortable that that you're being hired for what you're being hired for. You're a part of this bigger unit because of the value you bring to it. And you can kind of let those worries and those insecurities that you're going to be replaced, or someone may have the same knowledge that you may have, or they may deliver something in that way. Because I think that's something that a lot of people in these creative industries really do struggle with. Like, how can you go out and teach these people knowing that like you're secure enough in your work that you telling them their secrets isn't gonna?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I definitely don't hide any secrets because it's just more power to you. If you can push hard and put in as many hours, and I inspired you to do so, hey, maybe later on you'll hire me.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look at it. And I think it's the same way with you. Bringing it back to those pictures I was talking about when I shot in 2006, those same people that I met on that trip and shooting those photos,
Right.
they're the same people that I'm working with today.
Isn't that
You know?
wild? Isn't that, and the roles may have shifted a hair, or they're the dynamic of what they are, or even their platforms are different.
Yeah,
But
we grew up together in a way, you know, and we grew our careers together.
yeah,
So I'm sure it's the same way with you. You know, the people that you host with, the people that you do TV shows with.
yeah,
Uh, it's just you guys see each other at the same events, or you guys do the same work for a reason. You know, there's a reason why we end up at the same places. You know, because the whoever's hiring us,
yeah.
they're doing something right. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, because I think it is really interesting, and I think along the way, that's a standout individual. I think in our industry, those who aren't afraid to share your secrets, like you're saying, and I think those who do inspire with confidence, knowing that like it's not taking away from you as a person to say, hey, look, like this is the equipment I'm using. This is how I don't know any of your verbal the way you guys talk. I have no idea, but along those lines of like you being able to provide that information for somebody, I think that would be a it's a cool thing for somebody to do.
Yeah. So, for example, you know, Steph Papadakis,
Oh yeah, yeah.
he's been so instrumental recently in just kind of showing his craft
Yes.
and showing everything, like not keeping any secrets about here's how I'm going to make this power. Here's the suspension thing. Here's the chassis thing. Like, look, I just got this car. I'm going to take it apart bolt by bolt, you know?
Totally.
That is so cool. He's not trying to hide the race secrets. You know, the secrets
Mm-hmm.
are out there. The secrets is it's the hard work, the dedication,
The tenacity.
and yeah, exactly. And I love that he's showing it because hopefully it does inspire the next generation to kind of push just as hard, if not harder.
Does that also then disarm the audience in a way where it's enough where it's relatable and it's vulnerable? I think it's actually vulnerable for Steph to be posting some of that, because I saw it
Yeah.
too, and I was thinking like that's kind of wild for him to put himself out there in that way.
That's a good point. I noticed right away everyone's tone online. I mean, the trolls are going to be out there no matter what, right?
Right. Right.
But I noticed that there's just so many people that are kind of they accept that he's the expert, and I'm not going to question the expert, you
That's
know.
a
And
good point.
yeah, and it's super cool to see that you know people just realize like, yeah, I have nothing to say bad about what he's doing. You know, he's literally telling everyone
Respect.
his secrets, and it shows. That's why there's so many views on his YouTube channel. It's just so much more interaction, and I think it's actually inspired other people in the drift industry and hopefully in other racing series to kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, no, I think it does, and I think anybody who can put themselves in that vulnerable kind of position, I really think it does allow. And that's why I thought, you know, like the teaching stuff. When I saw it, I was like, that's really wicked cool that you're doing that, because I think to me that showed like, oh, you know, this is somebody that cup is so small.
Yeah.
So good. It's so fun.
It packs a punch, okay?
I find that to be super cool. Okay, wait. So taking it back to, you mentioned that like cars to you, it's finding the angles for it for you. It's telling the story of the car for you. But why cars? Because you could have done horses. You could have done
I think it's everybody has a different reason why they love cars.
yeah, or
Um,
love whatever their topic, whatever their subject.
yeah, yeah. So it's weird. I don't actually know. I think it's one of those things where naturally, when you grow up in Southern California, the culture is so ingrained with cars.
Yeah.
It you know it's glamorous. It's supercars. I mean, drag racing and land speed racing started here in Southern California. You know, and so much of it has to do with the fact that there are these dry lake beds and the way the roads are and how everything's so spread apart. It just
Hashtag
naturally
save the salt, by the way. Hashtag save the salt.
exactly save the salt. Yeah. I've gotten stuck really bad in the salt one time. Actually, the first time I went to Bonneville in a rental car, and I actually had to get pulled out by a dually.
Nothing like
Um,
the rookie move of the salt flats, right?
yeah, but the thing is, what people don't realize is the salt in a lot of places, it's so thin. Underneath it is it's like this crazy clay and mud, and it's really easy to get stuck on it. And on top of that, the salt is never dry; it's always wet. It's
Okay.
like pulling moisture out of the air, and it just like keeps that moisture. So it's super easy to get stuck on. So if you guys ever try to drive on a salt flight, be
You might
careful.
get stuck too.
Yeah, you might get
Or
stuck
they
too.
have secrets to help you there too.
Yeah, but what were we talking about? I got
Your car
sidetracked. Oh yeah,
culture
yeah,
stuff and how.
inspiration, car inspiration. It's interesting. Different places just have different cars that inspire different people, and also it gives different reasons why to get inspired by these cars. For example, one of the stories I did a couple of years back, I went to the UAE. I went to Dubai, and I kind of asked the local people why they're so inspired by cars, and it kind of goes down generations. This the cars built the place, and these heavy duty trucks, the Dodge Power Wagon actually
Oh yeah,
pretty much helped build that country. So they even built a shrine to the Dodge Power Wagon.
that's.
Um,
I would have never guessed that in Dubai.
Yeah, actually, I think Top Gear did a thing on that where they built like a 10 times size Dodge Power Wagon that actually drives and runs,
Why? Of course they did.
and you can live in it. It's like a RV, but
I love a good Dodge Power Wagon. Yes.
yeah, they built this shrine around it because hey, it's like hey, this built our country. We're so grateful for this thing, and it just happens to be a Dodge Power Wagon, so they love it.
I don't love it. Yeah, who knew?
Exactly.
Who knew?
So I mean, everybody has a different reason why they get into cars. For me, video games played such a big part.
What? I would never have guessed that. Really?
Oh,
What was your game? What was your?
Gran Turismo, without a doubt. And it's funny because it's come full circle. My friends at Toyota sent me, Kengushi, Frederick Osbo, Rutledge Wood, a bunch of like people that like work closely with Toyota. They sent us a whole care package, PS4, seat, and a steering wheel, everything. So we're all playing now during
That's
this
so
time.
fun.
It's a lot of fun, but the thing is, I'm pretty slow. So instead of actually trying to race against those other guys like Rut and Frederick, what I've been doing is I've actually been taking pictures in the game.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and so
So clever.
if you look on my Instagram, when this live is over, you can see that I actually took pictures in the game and I compared them to photos that I took in real life in the exact same location.
What?
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's uncanny how close it is.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. How close was it?
So well, some of the times, I think if you're just randomly scrolling and if you're just looking through photos, you just won't be able to tell at all.
That's wild.
Yeah.
How did? But see, that's the creativity on your end. Like, how do you come up with that? Where you're just like, oh,
Well,
this makes sense.
I just wanted to see, I guess here, I'll show you on my like for example, this
That's
one
so cool.
that I did. I don't know if you can see this one,
Yeah.
right? So
Sorry,
this one's shot in downtown LA, right?
okay, so you shot that one.
I shot that one,
Okay.
and then I shot it in game. That's what it is in game.
No way. What? Wait, can you go back real quick?
Yeah.
That's wicked. That's
It
so
looks
rad.
it looks
Such
it looks the
a-
same. It's the same locations. I mean, because what they actually do is they actually go out to these real locations and they take reference photos and then they build it in the game and it allows you to put any car into these places. So it's just like why do you need to go out to take pictures? You can take pictures from home, and that's actually what I've been doing. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, so how much does that put, not fear per se, but the shift of what we're seeing in automotive and motorsport,
Mhm.
how is that shifting the industry to, say, maybe in a year or two from now? Will the development of this gaming and iRacing and what we're putting out there change your industry enough?
I mean, I definitely welcome it because it's still one of those things where if you look at iRacing and you look at Assetto Corsa and all of these racing games, they're still modeled after real tracks.
Yeah.
And the people who race them, they aspire to eventually make it to the real track. You know, I can't imagine there's really any professional racers doing just e-racing who don't actually want to get in a real car
Get back
and
into the
race.
car. Do you
Yeah,
think though that'll do you think that'll shift though as we see more develop? I mean, especially at this time, right? Like Fox and NBC like pulled together an entire season, right, of NASCAR and IndyCar on right now during quarantine. So like, will we
yeah.
see that shift of people who maybe are doing well in iRacing or e-racing, whatever all the terms are, get a seat in real racing? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's already happening, especially with the Gran Turismo, with GT Sport. I've had a chance to photograph a lot of racers who actually came from Gran Turismo into the real world. And it just relates because, I mean, there's a reason why it's called a simulation. You know, it's
Yeah,
so good and it's so close. And also, that's a reason why a lot of these real racing drivers, they've never driven a simulation before. And as soon as they get on, they're just as fast, if not faster. You know, it's just so crazy to see this whole shift. And what's interesting is a couple years back, EA was launching a new video game and they actually wanted some screenshots in the game. So they hired me.
no
They
way.
flew me out to their studio in Sweden and they hired me to go into the game and photograph screenshots for the release of the game. So it's like, while a lot of these people, anyone who buys these games now, they can actually go in and have fun and practice shooting in the game. I was actually once really hired to go into a
The
game,
game.
yeah, and photograph cars, which is just so crazy.
Oh, wait, how does that? Okay, talk about the process of that because I think like that's something so many people will never get to experience. I mean,
It's interesting because the game, they basically, it was in a development version where basically it was running on a PC. I think it was out for PlayStation and Xbox, everything. But I went to their studio in Gothenburg, I think,
yes.
and I went there, and you know they have the development PC. They get me in the game, and they kind of show me how to drive around and whatever. But at any moment, I could basically press pause and just kind of do like an out of world experience. So I could move the camera in 3D space and I can change the settings little by little. Like I could change the focal length, I could change the depth of field, I could change so many things. And I could basically shoot in a game exactly how I would shoot in real life,
That's
but
wild.
there's no physical limitation. But I do have to say, I did push that game engine to its limit in there's a physical limitation in that world that potentially if I'm shooting something, it could look too fake or it could look,
Too like amplified or too.
yeah, there's like not enough data to kind of show the car actually in enough detail.
The real
So
question in that case, are they going to make a Larry sun guarded Larry in the game? Are you going to be a little bit?
so
Just curious.
funny thing is I'm actually in that game.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And part of the reason I think why they had me do the screenshots is because I'm actually in that game. I'm one of the first things that you see when you actually go into that, when you play that game. And I'm literally the last thing you see when you actually win the game, when you beat the game. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Like back in 2006, was there ever any idea? I mean, there's no possibility this would have been an idea, but I guess like, I mean, conceptualizing the fact that you'd be in a video game.
I never thought. I never ever.
Playing video games is your means of getting into this industry.
Well, and like people,
That's wild.
to this day, I get screenshots where people are like, "Hey, I'm racing against you," or "Hey, I see you in this game." It's just kind of a fun thing, I guess. I'm honestly just doing my thing. I'm just photographing cars that I love. I'm shooting videos that I love. I'm just doing following racing that I love. That's it. You know, I'm not really taking any guidelines. I'm not kind of going after things that I that I know I have no place in photographing, or that I maybe feel like it's just not interesting to me. So pretty much whatever I'm shooting, I just actually want to document for the
Yeah.
masses. Yeah.
But okay, one of the things that I find interesting is okay, so if we go back to the idea of your expectations are low, so you could miss a shot, right? Just in terms of like that's the mentality, whatever it might be, to make sure that you supersede what you might have. As a perfectionist, that I would imagine a photographer would have to be in some capacity. Are you a perfectionist?
I mean, I guess
How do you work through the performance then if you miss the shot? I would be
um,
so disappointed.
I get, I feel it physically, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
Like,
like
if I
viscerally.
know I messed up, and I know, for example, if I see a shot that happened in front of me with my eyes, and I knew my camera setting was not perfect, or I was actually not shooting, or if I was just looking at the action, if I was just actually watching the race instead of actually photographing it, and I saw like the coolest thing happen, I really do take it personally. Like I feel it in my
Like
heart.
in core, like
Oh
deep in.
yeah, yeah. And I'm so upset at myself, and I can't tell you how many times that's happened. It just happens all the time, you know. It's just one of those things where I guess I just take it personally, and that is never going to happen ever again, you know.
Yeah,
Um, these moments, even on a circuit race, where it's hey, they're going to come around in another minute or two.
yeah.
It's not the same ever, ever.
So like, do you let yourself like work through it for that minute, and then you're like, okay, head back into game. Like, how do you like shift that mindset, or is it
Realistically, a lot of times I have a pretty bad day until I get a better shot.
okay?
I say this a lot. I say this a lot. I when I go out and shoot, it's usually a not so good day, kind of a bad day until I get that first good one in the bag. Once I get that first good one in the bag, then it's a good day going forward.
Wow.
It's just such a mental game. It's not so much like, hey, it's a job. You go out there and you do your performance, and then when you're done, you can clock out. It's just
Yeah.
I just feel alive when I'm shooting, and I just take it so personally.
Yeah. I'm curious too, because I think it does sound like it's performance based to a certain degree, but that's not something you can teach. So as you're like teaching these humans like what you're using and or is that something that you
Well,
can kind of
so much what I'm teaching now is not so much about how to shoot, because most of the students that actually come to my classes with Canon, they actually know how to shoot. And a lot of those people honestly are better shooters than me in the technical aspect. But my strong point, I guess, is to A, get in front of the cool action,
yeah,
and B, source the cool cars. Because I've been in the industry for so long,
totally.
if I have exclusive access to a certain car,
Yeah.
even though so and so is a better photographer than me, they can't
Get
actually,
that shot.
yeah, they can't get better photos of that car, because guess what? I'm the only one who has access to that car.
Right.
And that's kind of one of the things I'm really trying to teach a lot of people. You just have to build rapport with these people, even if it's just somebody that you meet at a car gathering
Yeah,
or
like a
an
carbon
event.
copy or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, like, for example, when we're in the paddock, even at Rallycross,
Mm-hmm.
people would ask me all the time, hey, I can't shoot through the fence. I can't get behind these fences. And it's like so hard. I'm having a bad time. And it's really hard. But I tell them, like, look, do a 180. You're looking the wrong way. You know where the cool shots are. It's in the paddock. Those guys are wrenching. The cars are getting,
that's the passion, right? That's where
yeah, the cars are getting pulled in and out. The drivers are doing signings. Uh, there, there's just so many opportunities, and if you just can't see that, then you just kind of have to be inspired to kind of look for those different shots.
yeah, that's
Um,
a really good point.
a lot of times, I actually will go into the stands with these races, because sometimes being closest to the cars just doesn't make the best shot. Sometimes the best shot is actually in the stands and using the foreground elements of the actual crowd to your advantage to kind of tell that story, you know?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it from that
Yeah.
way. Thank you. That's a good lesson for.
Like for a good example is that shot that I sent you
Uh-huh.
with the lights, with
Dude,
the
that's
colors.
epic. Yeah.
So, you know, that was shot at Daytona at the Rolex 24.
Yep.
And that was just from some guy's camp. You know, some people were camping, they're drinking, barbecuing, having fun, and I just spotted their camp from the roof. Actually, I was like looking to see if I could find some lights that I could shoot through, and I'm like, oh hey, so at out of turn, the turn that they go right back onto the bank. I forgot what turn that is, but I'm like, hey, that's the corner. That's where they're having fun. They're partying, but they have lights on. You know, so I go there. I go into their pit, and you know, I make friends with them. I talk with them. They're drinking. They're having a good time. And I'm like, hey, can I shoot through your Christmas lights? They had a generator going and everything just to get those lights up. And I spent about 30 minutes just trying to get that one shot. And it turned out to be one of my best shots of the year. And I shot it from some guy's camp.
Okay, and that's where I think it's that is that relatability and that vulnerability that you have to be able to say, hey, like, knock knock, like, can I, like, how, excuse me, you're all having a good time, like, like,
Exactly.
kind of a, like, join your party for a little bit, like,
Yeah.
how do you get comfortable? How do you teach people to get comfortable in that way, where you're like, you're not imposing, you're not trying to,
Yeah.
you're not trying to be disrespectful,
Well, I think part of it is the fact that if you're at a racetrack, especially if you're at a race like Daytona,
yeah,
everyone's a race fan, you know, and so many people are so nice to kind of welcome you with open arms. Um, they offered me drinks, they offered me food, you know, but I'm like, hey, look, I just want to get my shot and I'm out. I'm
yeah,
looking for my next spot, you know. I'm not trying to enjoy myself, and that's what kind of one of the things that I always run into anytime I'm traveling. I'm going to these races, I'm going to these events. After the fact, the drivers, mechanics, the teams, the all these people, everyone's like, hey, we're going out, we're going to party all night, and we're gonna fly out super early. I'm like, that's cool and all, but I literally have thousands of photos that I have to go through. I just, I'm there for work, you know. Unfortunately, like, I love having fun. I love going out with all those guys, but part of it is that I just have to put in those hours and get those pictures out.
right.
So that's kind of part of the sacrifice that you have to go through to kind of keep this thing going.
But is that like the respect too? Because I think like that's something that, I hired a couple of guys with GRC back when, and Soli is one of my favorite humans, David
Oh,
Sullivan.
yeah, yeah. I miss that guy.
I
Yeah,
was texting with him yesterday. He's doing fine.
yeah,
But I remember when we had them work so many hours during the day, and of course, and then they would have to work at night, and it would just be, the turnover was so insane. And the respect that they gained, regardless if it was, the top quality of work, or if it was, whatever it came to be of it, it was so cool. But I think at the same time, motorsport and racing, for those who don't know, is such a brotherhood or sisterhood or a collective, culture together.
yeah,
So does
yeah.
that make me, does that make it hard to feel like, okay, I have to still separate myself from the parties and from the events, and how do I bro out with these people? Or is it built on respect?
The funny thing for me is that I did have a chance to experience that for many years when I didn't have as much responsibility, when I was still photographing and when I was still following these races, but I could get my work done quick and then I could kind of join the group. I mean, that's kind of the fun part of it. You're literally, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're literally traveling the world with these people, your peers, your friends.
Yeah,
And you
traveling
get
for
to,
distance.
yeah, you get to experience all of these cool places and all of these awesome cities with your friends. And
Yeah.
it's on someone else's dime. Of course, you're going to go out and party, you know?
Logically.
So, yeah. So, I did have a chance to do that for many years, but as the responsibility added up and as I had to kind of take care of more people under my wing, it's just one of those things where more sacrifices. And now to the point where it's all business.
Yeah.
If I do stay out late or if I do extend my trip, it's always for more work. It's always to, hey, let's go into the city and find some car collections, or
Sure.
hey, we know this guy with this car that hasn't seen the light of day for how many years. Let's go spend the sunrise shooting it before we fly out or whatever, and those things we do those because it's like the true car culture that we're really after.
Right.
A lot of those things, it's just not for money at all. In fact, we lose money doing a lot of these things, but it's good for notoriety. It's good for keeping car culture alive. And also it's just great content.
Right.
Potentially it will open doors for other collections
Right.
or other cars. And who knows, maybe more work.
Well, and I think that's something sometimes you got to put out the efforts in order to receive something back in return. And I know the grind, someone asked earlier, how basically like your rate card, how do you determine rate cards and, or your rates? And that idea that sometimes in the industry, there's a point where you're doing a lot of this work in order to gain that credibility and respect. And then you can kind of come in, but you do lose money in the process. If you stay an extra day to kind of create additional content, that's a hard thing that people kind of forget about our industry and our world.
Yeah. I think the rate card thing, it's kind of interesting. I get that question a lot.
Yeah, I bet you do.
It just doesn't translate. What I'm doing is completely different from what another photographer is doing, even in the same industry, because I'll do so many of those things for free, and even to the point where I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
Because there are events and there are collections and there's cars that I will go out of my way and I'll pay my own travel just to actually have those photos in hand, because it's worth more to me to actually create them and just put it out there in the world. And then, of course, there are those commercial jobs and there are those jobs that, it just has to pay a rate that's fair for my time.
Right.
It's just a give and take. I can't just be so, hey, this is it. This is the number, period. Right. You just can't do that because otherwise, you kind of fall out of love with this sport, out of love with cars in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the industry that it is. And I think that is something that a lot of people forget too. It is a love. And I've gotten in on motorsport now like 3 or 4 times. And there's always that question of like, why why motorsport? Why is that? And it's something that unless you're in it and you kind of understand that passion, I think that is what is really what pushes all of this. I'm curious though, behind you, forgetting that, what are the goods behind you? What are all those?
Those are Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels?
Hot Wheels and it's like my collection of stuff that I've kind of just gathered over the years. Oh. Yeah. Toys, Hot Wheels. That's a helmet right there, I think.
Okay. Looks like that one looks like a helmet. Is there anything that you would take if you could grab one item? Is there anything in that little collection of things that maybe means the most to you?
I don't think I would take anything out of there. I would probably take, I would attempt to take my servers that actually have all my photos, that house all my photos. So I would just run whatever. Clothes or not, I don't care. I will take that and I will run out onto the street.
Oh, okay. So like, do you have like an emergency, have you ever thought about the 101 of like an emergency situation with all of your stuff?
Well, so like my pictures, I promote backing up your files and pictures as much as you can and as often as you can, I guess. My pictures, I don't even know how many I have. It's quite a bit, but currently I have, I don't even know, 288 terabytes.
Whoa.
No, is that right? No. Well, yeah, I think some like 288 terabytes worth of photos, and video. But it exists in 5 different places, even on off-site, just because I just can't afford to lose it because it's my life's work,
Yeah. No, I can't imagine it. That overwhelms me just thinking about like having something on my desktop right now and having a file folder of like photos like overwhelms me. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah,
Like how
it's crazy. I mean, it's just one of those things where all the people that I work with, and I tell this to all the racing drivers that I've worked with over the years. I tell them like, for example, I shot with Bucky recently,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, and I had a chance to feature his personal Subaru that he's building over the past couple of years.
Right.
And I told
How
him
does
like,
it look in real life?
oh, it looks so good, and it drives amazing. He was very nice enough to let me drive it.
Oh, good.
And anyways, I told him, I was like, hey, does it weird you out that I have probably thousands of photos of you, just you,
Alone.
alone? I could come out with how many calendars of just Bucky Layton,
The Bucky calendar.
Yeah, yeah. So
You know how
it's
many people alone would purchase the Bucky calendar? A lot.
a lot of
A
people.
lot of
But that's with everybody, all the people that I've photographed over the years, Chris Forsberg, Ryan Turk, Tanner Faust,
You have
Reese Miller,
all of the calendars.
every single one of them in all different lights, win, lose,
Yeah.
champagne in the trailer, probably some of them naked, changing into the race suit, a lot of crazy photos from over the years.
Do you think there's anybody as it relates to from the motorsport? It could be from your world of photography and what that world is, or maybe motorsport. Who has been the biggest influence?
Mm,
Is there? I mean, whether it be a driver or
Without a doubt, the people that influence me the most are the people that I shoot with and the people that I actually started with, just because we're the ones that are kind of pushing each other.
right.
I see what they're getting, and I'm like, oh, I gotta get something better than that. Or
Well,
they see what I'm getting, and then they top it, and then I have to top them back. It's like a constant cycle, So I actually recently did a post on my Instagram where I kind of I didn't tag, but I just reposted all the people, or just a good amount of people that just have inspired me over the years.
That
Just kind of work alongside of me, that I'm lucky to be friends with, and we just travel the world together, and we inspire each other to kind of really push on the photography side.
Yeah, dude, your humility is wicked. It's so good. It's how do you stay humble? Like how would what because like even people in the comments have been talking about that, but it resonates. It's really it's a good leadership qualities that you're providing as you shift to that position.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fun for me, like I just got to keep doing this, and that's
Right.
why during this time it's tough for everyone. It really is, and it's tough especially for me and a lot of my friends that are motorsport photographers.
Right. The event based.
Yeah, like this event, this Long Beach Grand Prix would have been my 15th in a row.
Yeah.
So
That's tough.
the fact that I shot 14 years of that, and then on year 15, it's like, nope.
Yep. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's so tough.
I talked to Alex Rossi about that in one of these, and the idea of like the basically the purpose of a lot of what we feel like, knowing that there's as humans we're worth more than just what we do, of course, but that idea that purpose and the impact that you have in your job and what you do, and the mission behind that is what is significant to the purpose, and having that taken away, I mean, yeah, that creates a totally different emotion that most of us have probably never felt.
Right. And I guess I never realized how not essential my job is,
It sounds terrible, but in theory.
Yeah. Realistically, it's not that essential, but the cool thing is I know that so many people are just raring to go. The race teams, I have a chance to talk to a lot of the team owners in Formula Drift and other racing. They're just like ready, everything's all packed up and ready to go. Like the car's ready.
Can you
and
imagine
driver's ready.
That first event, what's going to happen?
Yeah, they're all just ready to go, and
all the hugs.
that gives me hope. Really, it does. even the smaller things like car shows and um, I don't know, just the even the local meets. I know it's going to be insane
Yeah.
when this is back to normal.
Is there any advice you have for somebody who might be feeling that way, itching in the industry, from your experience to say, like, get back out there? Because I think having been a freelancer at some point in time, and knowing that, I've been having these conversations with other reporters and commentators as well, that idea that we've created our own content before, that there's a way to do it again. But are people asking you, what that looks like?
I mean, I've had a couple people ask me that, and one of the things that I say is, hey, you have potentially how many years of archive backlog that you can go back through. There's always something that you've missed, or there's something that potentially you can recreate from your old photos. You can do like year by year, and it works for videographers also. Um, but for those people who actually want to just get into it,
Yes.
kind of what we were talking about earlier, hey, shoot in video games. I think that's
That's a good idea.
yeah, that's a good idea. Or if you want to learn more about photography, YouTube is a perfect resource. Right now is the perfect time to kind of just learn the basics and get used to having a camera. Like
Yeah.
part of it is you kind of just have to make it second nature and have the camera be an extension of your hands. One of the things I tell the Canon guys, I'm like, hey, you can literally shave off all of the labels on all the buttons, and I'll still know what every button does. And I can just use it, no problem. In fact, that probably happens in a lot of my cameras because I use it so much. All the buttons get worn down to the point where you can't tell what they do.
I believe it.
Yeah, so you kind of just have to get uh, used to it, having it in your hands.
Yeah.
Once you're out there and once the card's in front of you,
Yeah.
you don't want to have to fumble with the settings. You don't want to have to is this the right setting? You just want to,
This is a
turn
really
some
good
dial.
time to hone that a little bit, to understand
Yeah, it is.
equipment.
Yeah,
What
shoot some model cars, shoot some Hot Wheels. I don't know.
Okay, so one thing, so Instagram will kick us off, but have you had any like quarantine, like, do you have any food cravings? Because I was just talking with some people earlier today, and we were talking about like people like develop weird food cravings maybe during this time. Is there any food that like you like can't wait to eat when this is all done, or maybe you're eating a lot of? Just wondering.
Oh, definitely. And I'm sure you've got this answer before, but it's just those restaurants that you can't actually do takeout. For example, like sushi. How could you do takeout sushi? I mean, it's just not the same.
It's just not the same.
It's not the same. It needs to be made right there, and you have to eat it within seconds.
Right there.
So this is gonna sound really bad, but I love going to Japan. It's no secret that I love shooting in Japan so much, and it's a thing to actually go to the fish market in the morning and have sushi for breakfast. All right, so it's just a Japanese thing, and it's actually.
What's your go-to with that? Sorry.
So it's a thing that you do in Japan. You go to the fish market, and then they have sushi restaurants, and it's not fancy or anything. It's just, hey, the fish is cheap. We're just gonna make this fish, and we're just gonna have it where you could just eat it right there. But it's so fresh and it's so good. They actually don't have plates. They put it on the table for you, and you eat it off the table. But there's also these rolls that they make where they won't actually put it on any surface. They have to put it in your hand, and you have to eat it
because
right
of
away.
it's because of the consistency of it, or what?
That, and it'll fall apart if you put it down on the table. So like, you can't do that. You can't have that.
That doesn't
takeout.
happen in takeout.
No, yeah, you have to actually go to that place, and you have to wake up early enough to catch the guy to actually make it.
We know where
for
you're
you.
going after all this is said and done.
Yeah, exactly. First flight out to Japan.
Japanese fish market.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, as we're on that topic, we have like 45 seconds left before this ends. So I would just want to say, do you have anything to say to those who are out there, as you and I are in the comfort of our own homes, but people who can't be right now, of course, those who are working on the front lines?
Yeah, we feel for you. I'm gonna do what I can. Like each one of these things that really hit home. For example, the last thing was the crazy fires here in Southern California. We raised $25,000 from selling prints.
Wow.
So I took pictures of Matt Perez's Lamborghini and we printed out a bunch of pictures and we sold them. We raised 25,000 for Cal Fire. So this time I'm going to do something similar. I want to shoot another Lamborghini, a white one.
There is a quick chance that Larry may or may not be back on to finish that one. But if he does not pop back on here, just saying thank you to all who joined for that chat with Larry. That was really riveting. He is very insightful, and I really, really would like to. I don't think he is, but he is texting saying thanks for that. Well, thank you, Larry. I know that he's going to be doing some fundraising and whatnot for the cause of COVID-19 and a couple of others. So if you follow along his journey, which is amazing and incredible. But a big thanks to everybody who joined us here today. And I really would love to see those calendars that he has of all those drivers. He doesn't actually have the calendars, but he has all the prints, and I think that they should be made into calendars. So we'll see if we can't get that done. But thank you again to everybody who is actually out there right now on the front lines and who is fighting for us to allow us all to otherwise be in the comforts of